Shalom Aleichem. The parasha this coming Shabbat will be Parashat Yitro. Now, who is Yitro? Of course, we know that he was a priest for the service to Avodah Zarah, as an idol worshipper. One of the biggest idol worshippers of all time. That was Yitro. And yet, we call this parasha after his name. That's a great honor. What happened? That a non-Jew, a priest for idol worshipping, has been given such an honor. Number one, to be called after this, that this parasha should be called after his name. But on the top of everything, he is known as Hoten Moshe, the father-in-law of our master Moshe Rabbeinu. Great honor. What happened? Let's see what the first verse is telling us. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midyan, Hoten Moshe, Et kol asher asa Elokim למשה ולישראל עמו, כי הוציא השם את ישראל ממצרים. We are going to try to analyze this verse, to try to understand and to give an answer to many questions. Number one, Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midyan. We know that Yitro, the priest of Midian, right, was the father-in-law of Moshe. When Moshe ran away after he was a prince in the house of Paro, but because he killed someone, so that story we know from the previous parashiot. So he ran away and he fled to Midian. And he was in the wilderness. So it happened that he saw the daughters of Yitro. Moshe saved them from a very, very bad situation with the shepherds. And he was taken as a guest in the house of Yitro. He was even welcomed there. So, which led him, of course, to see Tzipporah, one of the 7 daughters of Yitro, and Moshe chose her to become his wife. We can assume that he saw in Tzipporah everything. He saw in her beauty, but before anything, he saw in her, of course, the beauty of her deeds. Like it says in the book of Mishle, in chapter 31, שקר החן והבל היופי, אישה יראת השם היא תתהלל. Plain beauty is just false. But when beauty comes together with good traits of character and the fear of God, that's the real beauty. So he saw in her such great gifts, and therefore she became his wife. Of course, when we say that she was a God-fearing person, at that time they didn't know anything about the God of Israel. They were permeated with idols. Our sages said that Yitro, not only he was the priest of Midian, Kohen Midian, but there is not one single idol in the world that he did not worship. But let's not be disappointed of the behavior of Yitro, because Yitro was a great man. I mean, if God made it possible for such a man to be the father-in-law of Moshe, the man who was to give us, the people of Israel, the Torah that was given to him by God himself, there must be a reason, because we understand that God sees into the heart of people. Of course, we have to repeat what has been said before, that Moshe himself grew in the house of Paro. He did not even have the look of a religious Jew. He looked like a plain Egyptian, and yet he was chosen by God to be the redeemer of the Jewish people, and later on the master of all Jewish generations until today. We read the Torah that was given to us by Moshe. The Torah tells us that Moshe saw God face to face. Whatever it means, but that's not the issue now. The point is that we know that there is no one that ever lived who was even equal to Moshe in his greatness. But what kind of greatness? We don't know about Moshe that he grew up in yeshivot, that he delved into the Torah day and night. He was an Egyptian. Like it says, when the daughters of Yitro saw Moshe, they reported to their father, saying to him, Ish Mitzri hitzilanu miyad haro'im. An Egyptian man saved us from those shepherds. So they looked at Moshe as being he looked like an Egyptian. And yet God chose him. He did not choose Aharon, his brother, who was a great man also, a prophet of Israel. He did not choose many of those great people that we had at that time, even before the Torah was given to the Jewish people. Because remember, the Jewish people were the children or the grandchildren of our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So they were given from the very beginning some gifts of good traits of character and many, many other things. There were prophets among them. There were very, very perfect people among them. And yet God did not choose any one of them. He chose only Moshe. Why? Because God sees the internal situation of a person. He sees the heart of a person. When he looked deeply into Moshe, he saw purity of the heart, purity of traits of character. I have no doubt in my mind that Hashem also looked inside the heart of Yitro. Now, Yitro was an idol worshipper, a non-Jew. And yet God, when he sees a good heart, when he sees a man with a pure character, he doesn't pay attention to the other things. First, he chooses the person. He chose Yitro to become the father-in-law of Moshe, with a tremendous, tremendous honor given to him by the Jewish people forever. So, let's see from the first verse what we can delve, what we can take from that, and how many messages we can derive from it. So first, Vayishma Yitro. Yitro heard. And our sages say in the Talmud, as brought in the commentary of Rashi, Mashmu'a Shama'uva. What was that he heard that made him come to the Jewish people and convert to their religion? We are not talking about a simple man. We're talking about a man of great wisdom, a man who has experience with all the civilizations of the world. As I said before, there was not one single religion that he did not pursue, that he did not serve. What does it mean? I mean, other people might think that he is really rotten. No, that's not the point. The point is that he was a thinker. He didn't know who is the true God, so he tried every God. That comes from a person who thinks the right way. That's a Yitro. Hashem saw in his heart that there is purity of the heart. Only what he was doing was wrong because of lack of knowledge. But now, Yitro heard what happened to the people of Israel. He heard everything, the plagues that fell upon the country of Egypt. את כל אשר עשה השם למשה, את כל אשר עשה אלוקים למשה ולישראל. One point that has to be said here, that in this very verse we find both names of God. The first one is Elohim, known as one of the names of God, and of course the supreme name of God, which is Adoshem. Yud Ke Vav Ke. Those two names cannot appear together in the same verse, because the first name, our sages said, Elohim, comes to symbolize Midat Hadin. It's a harsh measure of justice. Whereas Yud Ke Vav Ke, the supreme name of God, Adosh Amonai, represents the charitable nature of God and how He judges the world with as much compassion as possible. That's called Midat Rahamim, the measure of compassion. How is it possible that we find both of them, both names, in the same verse? That teaches us, that has to teach us the following. Number one, we have to know that Elohim, on purpose I say Elohim, I didn't say Elokim. When we say Elokim, we mean God, with the name Elokim. We know that Hashem is Ha-Elokim. But when we say Elohim, we mean all kinds of forces. If you check into the Rambam in Ilchot Avodah Zarah, on the first chapter, we find that Maimonides tells us that there were many forces in the world. When God created the world, He created forces. Each force is considered to be Elohim. Elohim is a great power. While we know that Elohim is God, but when we say Elohim, we mean one of the forces that were created in the world. In the very beginning of time, the world looked upon the forces of nature. Nature itself, in the eyes of people, was considered to be one of the servants of God. If we talk about the sun, it's one of the servants of God. We talk about the moon, it's a servant of God. We talk about the wind, it's also another servant of God. So in the very beginning of time, it's called the generation of Enosh. So people, they definitely knew about the presence of God, the supreme creator, and they wanted to worship Him, but they saw His greatness so great that they also gave tremendous honor to His servants. The only problem is that with the passing time, people forgot about the supremacy of the Creator, and they started to worship each one of those forces, such as the wind, the earth, everything that we realize that they are really forces, like the sun, for example. I mean, we see the light of the day because of the sun, plus other things. So it is known as a power. A power is known to be as Elohim. So in the eyes of Yitro, all the forces of nature are known as Elohim, and therefore he served all of them, thinking that that's the right thing to do. So that's why in the same pasuk it says, Vayishma Yitro. Yitro heard everything that happened, everything that God has done for the people of Israel. What do we know that He did? 10 plagues. Oh, that means 10 sources of power, 10 kinds of Elohim. And he saw and he heard, and he was extremely impressed. But that was only within the framework of the word Elohim as one of the forces of God. Until he realized, until he heard about the splitting of the sea, That's when he became so impressed that he finally understood that there is only one great power that is supreme and above all other powers, and he probably is the creator of all these powers in the world. And that's why we find the name Yud Ke Vav Ke following the name Elohim. So the Elohim that we write here is vis-a-vis the forces that have become a kind of avodah zarah, of idol worshipping for Yitro, until he realized the truth. And the truth is that there is only one God who created all the forces. And therefore, Ki hotzi amosh Hashem et Israel mi Mitzrayim. It's not Elohim, it's Hashem, Yud Ke Vav Ke. As we say in the Pasuk, there is a verse that says in the scriptures, Ki Gadol, as he himself, by the way, as Yitro himself says, Ki Gadol Adonai mikol Elohim, Ki badavar asher zadu aleim. Because God, the supreme God, is above all other forces. Ki Gadol Hashem mikol Elohim. And that's when he decided to come. As our sages said, Ma shmu'a shama' uba. What is it that he heard that made him come? Come to do what? In the understanding of the Torah, as we all know, he came to convert, as our sages said. He came to become a Jew. He came to Moshe so that he can be accepted by the Jewish people and he can convert to the religion of God. Ishtabah v'yita'alleh shemo. What is it that made him make such a decision? You have to understand that Yitro was a very powerful man. He was not just the priest of Midian. He was a rich man. He was respected by all the religions of the world. But when he heard and he finally understood that there is a power, which reminds us, by the way, of Avraham Avinu. Our forefather Avraham was the same thing. He also worshipped, our sages said, that he worshipped all the idols in the world. Until finally at the age of 75 he realized that there is only one power. And when he sought to know that the source of that power, that's when Hashem revealed himself to him. And then Avraham became our forefather, the first one who brought the unity of God, the oneness of Hashem among all the nations of the world. Now Yitro it's almost the same thing. He looked upon every religion and he worshipped every kind of religion until he finally found the truth. And the truth is that there is only one God. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And then he said, what am I doing in my position as a priest of Midian? I don't want to serve anymore this kind of religions or idols. I have to come to the Jewish people so I can worship the only and the supreme God of the world. There is one more message here to bring. Our sages emphasize the word Mashimu'a shama uba. And he came. He heard, he understood, and then he came. Which, by the way, teaches us that once we understand something, once we understand the truth in something, don't wait. Go for it. Otherwise, if you are going to wait even one day, and then later it will come, the feelings that you had are going to cool down, and the impression would disappear, and you will not do anything about it. Which teaches us the following. The Talmud says in Masechet Zvachim on page 117 that the day when God gave the Torah at the mountain of Sinai, all the world heard about it. All the nations of the world. In fact, the Talmud tells us that people on that day which of course there was a tremendous effect upon the world on the day when God came to the mountain of Sinai and he gave the Torah to Moshe to be given to the people of Israel. At that time nature has changed. Nature that means animals, dogs, and all kinds of creatures or anything that was created stood in a total halt, which means it was complete silence in the world. So the people started to say, what's going on today? What is happening? And the wise people among those people said, well, today is a great day because God is giving the Torah to his chosen people. So now that teaches us, by the way, that the world knew what's going on. They knew that what is the truth. So how come, the question is, how come only Yitro is the one who heard everything that happened, the great miracles and everything, and then he came to convert. So since the whole world, since all the population of the world heard what happened also, how come they stayed in the same place? They remained as they are, and they didn't come. They should have come. They heard the truth. They know the truth. If they know the truth, then come for it. They didn't. Mashmu'a shama'uba. He's the only one. Yitro was the only one who made that great change in his life. And the change that practically he abandoned all his possessions, all his honor and respect from all the nations to come and join the people of Israel. That which was supposed to be by all the nations, but no one else has done the same thing. This situation is exactly the same situation in every generation, and especially today. You think the world doesn't know where is the truth? Then no. The world knows the truth. The Muslims know the truth. The Christians know the truth. All of them know very well the truth. But what it takes is guts to get up and come and join. To convert is not easy. Of course, there are many people who convert to Judaism. And many of them are not doing it for the right reason. They do it because either they fall in love with their partner or because of some other kinds of reasons. But some of them do come because they understand that this is the truth and there is no other way to live except by coming and take up the Jewish religion. I'm not trying to emphasize anything to anybody else in the world, because the world knows everything. They know very well. All of them are endowed with wisdom. They know that God is God. They know that the only true religion is Judaism. They know that the Jewish people, despite all their suffering, they are the nation that has been chosen by God. They know everything. So, then what is it that holds them from coming and convert and take up the Jewish religion? Well, we have to admit it's not easy. It's not easy for people to do that kind of decision. I remember I read, there was a great teacher in Yeshiva University about maybe 25 years ago. I forgot his name, but he was a convert. Why? Because he understood the truth. So he was a man of pure character who decided, since I know what is the truth, what am I doing? And he was a priest. He was a very successful priest. He wrote a book and I read the book. And he says that one day he was in company of all his friends, the priests in New York. And some of them even said that this man was supposed to become the Archbishop of New York, with great honor and riches and everything. But he asked them a question: do you believe in, in Christianity? And they all said to him, no, we don't believe. You don't believe? Then let's go out. They said, no, the church is very rich. We can't leave it. So he got up himself and he tried first to convert according to the reform movement. Didn't work. He went to conservatism. It didn't work until he became a religious Jew, and he took up the conversion the proper way, the kosher way. Now what does it mean? And by the way, he became a lecturer in Yeshiva University. And then he passed away. But this man has found the right way to paradise, because he pursued the truth. It's not enough to know the truth. You have to go after the truth. The world knows the truth. I remember Rabbi Amnon Yitzhak, he said this story, I heard it from him, that Hamas, the fierce enemy of the Jewish people today, right, with whom we fight every day practically, Hamas in Gaza. So when they ask them, how come we keep on firing all kinds of missiles against Israel and nothing happens to them? So they practically admitted that the God of Israel is the one who deviates the course of those missiles. Oh, you know the truth then. So how come you don't change your ways? Unbelievable. Once you are in your way, it becomes difficult to leave it. Why? Because of interest. It's all a matter of interest. But they know the truth. I'll tell you another thing, another anecdote. Once I invited an Arab who was a good carpenter. I invited him to build up my library. So he stayed in my house about 2 weeks. And this guy was a good man. And he was looking at me as a person who studies the Torah maybe 12, 16 hours a day. So he told me, I can't believe it. I cannot understand how a person can stay on the Talmud and on the Torah, learning for so many hours. I said to him, the Torah is our life. What can we do? Okay. He even told me, sir, for this house I am willing to work for free. Of course, he was paid very well. But that's what he had a moment of truth, so he said it. And yet, when the afternoon came, he went to pray in the backyard. He went to pray. The Muslim. He was a good Muslim, a devout. But he showed me that he admired very much the way of the Jewish people. I have another guy in New York. When he came to work in my house, a young man, he was going to become a priest. I don't know what happened with him later, but he was so desirous to see the Shabbat, the way we celebrate Shabbat, the way we celebrate Sukkot. He was so much fond of the things that he has seen that I know very well that he knew the truth. Same thing with all the nations. They know the truth. There's a story of, just a few years ago, when an Israeli went to Nepal or India. That's when he saw the famed leader of that kind of movement, and when he said to him that, the Israeli guy, a non-religious boy from Tel Aviv, he came to him seeking the truth by him. So the man said to him, you come from Israel and you want to change to my religion? You're crazy? But you are the father of all the religions. Go back to Israel and try to find your God, because your God is God. And what happened was that he went back to Israel and he went to the yeshiva or sameach. Unbelievable. So the world knows the truth. The problem is, if they know the truth, then get out and come to the right religion. No. It's not easy. Interest, nature, character, everything stands in between. But a man like Yitro, nothing stands before him, and therefore he came. And that's why in the same verse we see two things again. We see that he is known as Kohen Midian, the priest of Midian, something quite negative in the eyes of the Jewish people, right? An idol worshipper. At the same time it says Choten Moshe, the father-in-law of Moshe, the highest kind of honor and the highest kind of holiness put together. How is it possible? Now we understand why. Because this is the man who, after knowing the truth, he had the courage, he had the guts to get up and follow the truth. That is something that is extraordinary about Yitro, and that's why the whole parasha was given to him, as we call it by the name Yitro, Parashat Yitro. That teaches us in every kind, this message should go to the heart of everyone, Jews included. I mean, as far as the non-Jews, they know the truth. Go ahead and pursue it. Go and seek the truth and come for it. Because there is nothing more important than the truth. And there is nothing that God admires and respects and which leads him to choose the person is only when he sees the person goes after the truth. Our sages said, Chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu chotam ha'emet. I mean, the seal of God is the seal of the truth. That's why he respects the truth. If he sees truth in a person, he chooses him. How? By making him do that which is essential to the spiritual life of a person. Otherwise, it's all a matter of interest. He could know the truth and yet he would do nothing about it. And that's tragic. But that's exactly the story of all the world. So therefore, it says, Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Choten Moshe, and he heard everything that happened. Et kol asher asa Elokim leMoshe uleYisrael amo, ki hotzi Hashem et Yisrael mimitzrayim. We know that the splitting of the sea was the greatest miracle. But not only that, but that was the kind of miracle that convinced Yitro that he has nothing to do wherever he is. He has to get out and go forth for the right religion. He came to convert and he became one of the most honorable men, which teaches us you could be a non-Jew. But if you do it for the sake of the truth and you change, you become extremely appreciated and admired. Our sages said, Va'ahavtem et hager. I mean, the Torah says, this is a commandment of the Torah that has been repeated at least twice in the Torah, that one has to love the convert. But what kind of convert? Ger tzedek, a convert that comes with a heart for the truth. That's the only convert that we respect very much. Otherwise, there are many kinds of converts that do not bring themselves into anything that is tangible. But I have known people who have converted and they became really very good Jews, devoted Jews for the sake of the truth. Shabbat Shalom.